oh my God, it
Yeah.
didn't even occur to me the friends that I'm already denying being in my pod might actually already be in a pod
They might
without
already
me.
be in a pod without you.
Oh, crap. All right, now
Sorry.
my days are on. It's time to start drinking.
Yeah. Laura Folco, I got you just as
Oh my
you...
God, I feel like Marco Rubio.
The Marco Rubio water sip moment, the classic water sip moment. Oh
Welcome.
my gosh. How are you doing? How's it going?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. You know, as you can see here in my lovely Brooklyn home.
Yeah,
my
it
plants.
looks... I mean, we talked about this a little beforehand, but we're giving you a room rater 10 out of 10.
Awesome. Even with the cat.
I feel like the cat adds to it. I mean,
Yeah, he's
I
a
feel
12.
like maybe
Pepe.
yeah, that's Pepe the cat. Now Pepe has a Twitter account, right? If I don't.
No.
Twitter account?
Oh my God, I'd be banned within days.
The stuff that he says. Is he a Republican? Yeah. I get the feeling that Pepe is he's not. Okay. All right. I was just...
No, he's an independent.
Okay.
He's an undecided voter.
He's an undecided. They should be working hard. They should be working hard for the
I don't know how you could be undecided at this point, but you know, there are people that are undecided. So, and he's one of them.
It's
he's
that
not sure.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
You might hear a little construction going on next door. It's the bane of every New Yorker's life is the gut renovations that start in like August and end in June.
Did you say gut renovations? Like they just gut?
Yes. Yes. The 1%ers buy a house and decide to just tear it all out and put new stuff in it.
Gotcha.
And then like 5 years later, another batch of millionaires does the same thing.
Does the same darn thing. Because I remember you, I think the last time you were in a different place and you moved, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you
that was the
bought
bad place. I called it the bad place.
The bad place. Have you seen the movie The Good Place?
I have.
It's really good.
Yeah. That's where I kind of came up with the idea of calling that place the bad place.
Gotcha.
That was an unfortunate real estate decision on my part that I quickly got out of.
Was it? As long as you can get out of it, that's the key, you know?
Yeah. It was definitely, it was a couple of years of stress, but
yeah.
And New York City real estate is no
joke.
Matter.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, so
how...
now I'm a renter again.
Oh, you're a renter again. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. And do you have a good... Now, I know that rents are changing right now with COVID and stuff like that. Are you negotiating deals and stuff like that?
Actually, you know, my landlord told me she wasn't going to raise my rent this year.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and she initiated that because I was kind of dreading maybe having to have that conversation because it's just awkward.
Okay.
But she's like, of course, no rent increase. And I was like,
that's cool. That's always good to hear. So I was going through your Twitter account recently. I was sort of trolling for some topics right off the bat.
Pitching at Time Warner Cable and airlines.
I did see a little bit of that. Right off the bat, I gotta say, Team GIF or Team GIF. I did notice.
You know what? Honestly, it's not one of those things. It's not like tabs and spaces. Let's just be real here. I'm not going to plant a flag on this hill.
I tend to use
them back and forth.
I'm going to die on this hill. And in your tweet, you were on the same page. You were GIF. You were Team GIF.
GIF, yeah. I think it is GIF. GIF is peanut butter.
Yeah, I mean, my business is spelled Commerce Hero. If I said it's pronounced Jommers Hero, that wouldn't make any sense.
It starts with a C.
I'm the creator. And I said it's pronounced Jommers Hero.
Yeah.
Right? That wouldn't be okay. That would not be okay.
Jaundice Hero. There you go.
Jaundice Hero.
That's what I heard when you said Jommers Hero. It's a whole different...
It's a whole different thing. I don't
area
understand
there.
It drives me crazy. It actually, we watched some of the SNL stuff, the debates or whatever, and there was a part where like the person impersonating Kamala was like, "I need to create a GIF."
Great.
She's great. She's awesome. She's like trying to create like a viral moment, and she's like, "I got to create a GIF," and I was like, It's not a
Oh
GIF.
no.
It's a GIF.
That was last year, I think, because she used to be a cast member years
Yeah,
ago on SNL, and she's back to. Oh, she's Pepe. Sorry
Pepe
about that.
is causing
She's
trouble.
back to do Kamala. Looks like
Yeah, I mean, she's a perfect fit for that.
she is. She is.
But anyways, so remote work. You have worked remotely for, is it 13 long productive years?
Yeah,
Something like
I've
that.
had some contract
stints.
work in between where I would go in 3 days a week for like 6 hours.
Technicality.
And but I've been 100% remote since 2014.
Yeah.
No more contract work. It's all on my own.
So you're about, I checked, I'm at about 8 years, and you're a solid 5 years ahead of me.
Yeah.
You know, the whole world is working COVID remotely now, not just remotely, right? But COVID remote. And I'm curious, are you seeing much of a difference in your work, in your routine, like your interaction with clients, people, anything like that? Or are things, you know, mostly business as usual for you since you've been doing remote for so long?
It's pretty much the same, although I'm busier, just because it's like.
Well, that's good.
I mean, I have just a small handful of clients, and I hold on to them for years. I don't really like turn over sites or anything like that. So, and they're all like working out of their house already, you know, or working out of an office with just one other person. So it's pretty much the same, just lots more work. I think it's because I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going on vacation. No conferences.
Yeah. Do you miss the conferences?
I didn't go to many, but I do miss Imagine, and I miss those Wynn hotel rooms so bad.
Yeah. The Wynn knows how to put together a nice hotel room.
Oh, man. I think about all those rooms being empty, and I'm like, should I just take a chance and fly to Vegas and just stay at the Wynn for a week? I mean, God, no, I would never go to Vegas. But I miss those curtains. Oh,
just hang out.
I do.
Yeah.
But as for the remote thing, it's pretty much not different, although I did flee Brooklyn for like 2 months in March. I went up to Westchester where my boyfriend lives.
Okay.
So I was there
is that
for about
in
2 months.
Is that in upstate New York?
Well,
I almost said northern. I almost said northern New York.
I call it upstate, but that's sort of a thing that if it's not in one of the 5 boroughs in New York City, it's upstate.
Gotcha.
Essentially. So, but people that don't live in one of the 5 boroughs get upset when you call it upstate.
So this is a very sensitive, I've stumbled onto a very sensitive question that I didn't realize was so politically sensitive.
When I met him, I was like, I told my friends, I met this guy upstate. And then, so they all started calling it upstate, and they didn't think anything of it. So then he overheard like one of them say, "Are you going upstate this weekend?" He's like,
I don't know.
Are we going to the Poconos or whatever? Not the Poconos, the Catskills, or I get all my mountain ranges mixed up. And I was like, no, your place.
Yeah.
So now it's just kind of a joke.
Yeah.
But anyway, I went up there, and it was very unusual to have somebody in the house when I was working. Because normally it's just me and the cat.
Gotcha.
And at first we had the computers side by side, and he's on calls constantly, and I'm over there like we're arguing over what music to listen to, and I'm just like, oh. So finally I moved up to the extra bedroom.
Okay.
So I've got I call it the office now.
Right. Right.
And it's actually where my business is incorporated. So next thing you know, I should be hanging a shingle.
Yeah, hanging up a shingle. I'm very particular about my like work environment too. Like and I have 3 kids and stuff, and so I literally I built a little mini shed in my backyard.
Oh, that's awesome.
like an office pod shed, just because I don't want to hear them. They're too loud. They drive me bonkers. So they're great most of the time. Some of the time they're okay. But I don't know. I need that like controlled work environment, Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
To stay sane. And
like Paul would kick off his day or end his day around like 3:30 or 4, and I'm like, I got like another 2 or 3 hours left, and it was really hard for me to actually get work done at that point in the day because he would sort of kick into end of day mode. And I'm over there like, oh, I'm still working, and then starting to feel like I'm missing out, get a little FOMO there.
Yeah.
So now that I'm up in the office, I just emerge around 7, ready for cocktail hour.
Right. I feel like people need to be like, I feel like if you're going to work remote long term, first of all, you got to be I think you need to be a little persnickety about your work environment for it to, like people that are real casual about how they work and they can just walk into a coffee shop with a laptop.
Don't understand those people.
And work with no real chair for 6 hours straight. Like it's not going to work out long term for them. It's just I don't think that it will.
It depends on the person. I'm particular about my work environment, but I'm also particular about everything else. Like I'm the type that will like, like if a book is crooked on my coffee table, I'll just be like, I'm just gonna adjust that there, and like
just gonna tighten that up.
I've never been one to like I have an iMac here and I have an iMac up at his place, and I can't work on a laptop. Are you kidding me? No. Like I need my environment. I need a mouse. I need my 100%. Extended keyboard here. It's just
Like if you're on a
when
laptop,
I would travel, it was just like
it's the worst. It's the absolute worst.
And I need the geriatric font because I can't see anything. So it's like I can't even take it when I'm on a 15-inch laptop, and I'm like, it's horrible.
Dude, I was on. We had to go to LA for a few days, and I was working off of my. I was doing limited work, email and stuff, off of my iPad.
Oh God, no!
And it was not a ton. I mean, I wasn't coding or anything, and like my eyes were getting strained and stuff. And then when I got into my regular environment, my eyes were strained for like a full week. Like I thought I needed to get LASIK and stuff like that. It was horrible.
No, I have an iPad that's purely for like reading the newspaper, looking up someone on IMDb when I'm watching TV, like where have I seen that guy in? But it's not. It's like it's a pure entertainment device. It's, I mean, I may write it off of my taxes.
If the IRS is watching, I do a lot of testing.
I think you've got bigger fish to fry, Mr. IRS.
I think you do. Well, shame on you for watching this. If you are, you should be cleaning things up in DC or something like that. How do you keep? You mentioned you have the same clients for a super long time. How do you? I feel like I don't know. I feel like so many people have client relationships that they struggle with that are difficult for one reason. And maybe part of that is everybody's trying to grow so much. And I really love how you're like, hey, I'm a solo consultant freelancer. I don't need to become Laura Folco Enterprises, although if you ever do, that'd be a great name for them.
I actually, Petropolis Enterprises is my chosen name.
That's even better.
Right, it's a lot of people have asked me, like, why don't you start an agency? I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I need that grief. My father had a business his whole life, he's a plumber. And it went under right around the time I went to college. And it was devastating. I remember them trying to pay his men through using their credit cards. Like my parents had really good credit. They paid everything off in full every month. And he had his best client basically just didn't pay him. And it was a bad story. The guy ended up going down the rabbit hole too. But it just, I don't know, like the stress he had of having to worry about paying his men, and then eventually the company folded, and that, just think about that. And it's like, I don't know if I would want that responsibility of having staff.
Yeah.
At this point, it just doesn't like, if work gets slow, I can tighten my belt if I need to.
Yeah.
I don't have to ask anyone else to do that.
I'm the same way. I like to keep things simple. It's funny. I didn't make the connection until just now. But my dad had a business. He was a lawyer before he became a teacher, and it was really hard on him. He had issues with taxes and all sorts of cash flow issues. And
there's a lot.
I didn't make the connection until just now, but I feel like I'm sort of weirdly resistant to having a staff and team members and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
maybe that's from what it's from.
and maybe there's something, but I hadn't really made that connection until just now. But yeah, I think it's almost the default. If you're a freelancer, the next step is to become an agency, and now you're on that growth path. And
You know, there is that grow, grow, grow mentality, and I'm not a big fan of it. It just like there was a announcement that Blue Acorn was acquired by some other company.
ICI, yeah.
And it just seems like there's just it's like these bigger companies are just hoovering up the smaller ones,
I
and
call
we're
it
all
mage
headed
acquisition.
towards
I call it mage acquisition.
It's so perfect. But it's like Acme Inc. That's where we're all headed. You know,
Yeah.
Unitards and Acme Inc. Eventually, where it's like one big company
Right.
owns everything.
Right.
And that's just kind of like some people see it as like, hey, congratulations, and I see it like for the individuals involved, 100%.
Right.
But I see it from
the big picture
landscape perspective as a bit unfortunate because it's just bigger and bigger players making it harder for smaller players to compete. Yeah. And that's another thing. I don't need to compete.
Yeah.
Like Acme Inc. is not going after my little slice over here. They're just my slice is too small for them.
Right. And it's still probably quite a healthy slice. I mean, that's what I think more people should go that route of just being able to be independent, have a really cool client base that are just.
It's really great. I mean, I don't have to look for work.
Yeah.
I haven't had to look for work for years. The last time I looked for a client, I think I might have worked with you guys when you first started. I had someone found me through Commerce Hero.
Oh, Commerce Hero, that's right. Yeah. That was cool. I was very proud of that. But
it's just like I don't really have to look. Although I am working, and speaking of growth, I am working with some developers.
Okay.
And the couple of the guys that used to work for Intu.
Yeah, okay.
They have their own agency, Favicode. And I have to tell you, it's great working with them because they're super smart and they're really easy to work with. And they take some of the pressure off of like especially front end work, which I've never excelled at. Now, instead of like realizing that I'm going to have to be heads down in JS and CSS land for like 3 days for something that would take someone else 3 hours, I can literally just ask one of them to do it.
Just hand it off.
So that has occurred to me to maybe take on one more client just because I have more bandwidth because of them.
But that would be very manageable and steady and stuff. And
no, I bit off more than I could chew when I first started freelancing.
Yeah.
And it ended badly. It was just a really bad experience.
Actually, it's so funny. I did the same exact thing. And this is what I normally attribute my hesitance to is that I was a freelancer, started subcontracting. I took on this huge like Flash project. Didn't know the first thing about Flash. I was like, I can figure that out.
That's so typical.
And it was like 3 or 4 times bigger than anything I'd ever done before. And I just crashed and burned and it was very painful.
I think every freelancer does that. Every single one.
So.
You know, it's just like it led to really awkward conversations, which I hate confrontation. That's why I always like kvetch on Twitter. So it's faceless. But it just I never want to re-experience that type of situation again. It's enough to keep me from biting off more than I can chew.
Yeah. And then you branched into Magento U. And I saw you've been doing that now for 3.5 years, which is wild. Sometimes you go on LinkedIn and you look at something and it keeps track of how long you've been doing stuff for. And you're like, wow, that's been a while. Right? Yeah.
It has been.
So how's that going for you?
It's good. It's all remote now, but they started that. Sorry, this cat's really active right now.
I just realized your audio sounds great when you're really close to the mic. When you turned over right now, it was like sounded amazing. But
how's that?
Oh God, that's so good.
Much better? Okay.
Don't worry about it. Either way is fine. I don't want.
It's the damn hair.
Think about it too much.
The hairband hair, but
yeah, Magento.
No, they started remote last fall, and they.
Now, do you like the in-person?
Something really exciting. I do like the in-person.
It's interesting.
Like I was told, like you won't have to travel. It's like, dude, I never leave my house as it is.
Right.
I kind of like the travel. That was like, to me, I'd be like 3 weeks in the house,
right,
and then a week out for Magento U. It wasn't quite 12 weeks a year, but it was about 10.
Right. And like, this is
It's
the thing is
nice.
that even those of us that love remote work, love it. You want some in, like, my thing is that hybrid remote in person is the ideal scenario.
Yeah, I
And it
think so
looks
too.
different for everybody, but like for you, that's a perfect gig to get out. Now, you probably don't want to go see clients in person and stuff. Maybe you do a little bit, but the teaching thing is probably a perfect thing to get out and
Yeah.
just do some
I
in-person stuff.
have gotten together with clients. It's funny. I had the one client that sort of launched me into the only working at home, no office work. I started with him in 2014, and he lives like a mile and a half from me here in Brooklyn. But we met for the first time like last year. It's the funniest thing. It's just like,
Yeah.
we're doing a Magento 2 migration, and we figured we'd get together and kind of discuss that a bit. So it's kind of funny. It's like, but he doesn't insist on meeting.
Right. That's the
None of my
worst.
clients do, which is nice because they understand the benefit of like not having to be face to face.
Yeah. Yeah.
And plus, I'm not an employee.
Yeah.
So there's no like need to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. So Magento U has been remote for a while now.
about a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Don't love it.
yeah.
I don't love the remote aspect.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a rapport going.
Right.
You know, it's
right.
Although I have since started telling them that they have to turn their video on. They just have to.
Yeah.
There's just no option. There's not an option not to.
Yeah.
One guy in Mumbai was allowed to turn his off because his connection was awful and it was like 3 a.m. for him. So I had pity.
Right.
But the rest of them, I'd come back from lunch. I'd be like, "Where's everybody at? Just let me know when you're ready and I can start."
Right.
It helps.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Like, I don't know. I've been doing more of these video podcasts and you have to get into like, I don't know, like I have this whole way I arrange my windows on the screen so I could focus. And it's like the video call thing can be not great, but you can work to make it better to where it feels more engaging and stuff like that.
It is. See, doing this remotely, it's 40 hours. So that's a long time. And it's 8 days now. It's 5 hours a day for 8 days rather than, because I think it would be too long.
Yeah.
You can't just sit there. I mean, we were talking about conferences being not as fun now that they're remote because it's like you're basically sitting in front of your computer all day, looking at the screen. Like if I'm in front of my computer, I want to do stuff. You know, I want to be like when I teach, one of the things I hate the most about it is I'm code adjacent for 8 days, but I can't actually write code because I'm teaching them. But I just want to like stop for an hour and be like, let me just write some code for a while, and then I'll get back to you. You know, I've been talking about it and showing them how to do it, but it's just like,
yeah. What do you think? I was thinking about this as far as like the complexity of M2. I saw your tweet about UI components. You were like, I think this might be the end of me kind of a thing.
It is ridiculous how complex and brittle UI components are. Like, you know, I'm self-taught for programming and I've always been able to figure out, like, fire up Xdebug or whatever. And that's how I figured out Magento 2.
Yeah.
I just put breakpoints everywhere and looked at how it bootstrapped, how the application launched, how the request worked. And like, so I could understand. I did this whenever I was getting ready to teach, so I could understand what's going on under the hood. But with UI components, I haven't really tried super hard, but usually the amount of effort I've put in so far should yield some results, but it's sort of like, I'm tossing stuff against the screen to see what sticks. And then I give up and I open a PR for Yvonne Wheeler to review and help me. I feel like I'm stuck on UI components. And then, you know, I go to bed and I wake up and.
Oh, is he one of the guys?
He helps
one of the
me.
ex-Intune guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. It's like, and since they're like 6 or 7 hours ahead, like I wake up and I'm like,
yeah, you're all excited
and
to see what happens.
He's like, like he makes a one-line change, and I'm like, oh,
that's awesome.
But even he says it's just crazy. They're just they're painful. Like you tell your client that it takes your best developer 3 days to add a checkbox in checkout. It's just,
It's not good.
and they don't understand. They
It's not
don't
good.
understand at all.
Yeah. So I haven't done Magento dev for a while, so I haven't actually had to deal with UI components. And I was working with this front end framework called Tailwind. It's this really simple CSS thing, and they call their things UI components, and they're just very simple HTML, CSS UI components. They work exactly the way you would want them to, and so I don't have any of that negative baggage with UI components.
It's just like the idea is interesting, but it's just its implementation is really
wild.
Like, it doesn't take advantage of your IDE to help you debug things. It's just arbitrary strings that are getting passed into JavaScript. And like, if you look at the XML you have to write for it, it's crazy. It's like, oh, you got to repeat this namespace 4 times. Why? Because you have to. And that's, it's even going in with a debugger and figuring out why you have to, it still doesn't help.
Yeah. But so, like as far as the complexity of M2, like you're dealing with students that are hitting that learning curve, right? And you're teaching them the essentials and stuff like that. So what are your thoughts on that?
I'm getting a lot more brand new developers, like brand new, or functional programmers that have not really done OO. And it is a huge, huge jump to go. If you have OO, or like the best is to get a Java developer in your class, someone that knows Java, because they get the stuff that you can learn Magento too, but you need to have some fundamental knowledge of OO before you can understand Magento 2. So sometimes I find that with the push towards more functional programming the last number of years, more and more students are coming from that background, and they're struggling a bit. And we give them a ton of information in this class. Like day one, your first exercise is to write a module. You create an XML file, a PHP file, and you run a command, and you're done. And you get that sense of accomplishment. And by like the last day, oh my God, they don't do UI components, but they might as well. It's some complicated stuff. So there's a huge, like, you start out like this, and then it's like, whoop, for the rest of the course.
Steep. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and they're having a hard time with it.
Some do, some don't. I try to give them as much information. I used to give them way too much information. I used to step through the code sometimes and be like, here's how it bootstraps, and because that's the kind of stuff I like to know. And then I just get this sort of like look, and I'm realizing like, oh, they don't care about this. They just need to be able to learn how to add a checkbox and check out.
Yeah. So trying to focus on just more practical, like nuts and bolts stuff. Yeah. And how to like give them sort of patterns and tips to be able to like figure things out in the future, that sort of thing. Yeah. I noticed that Peter Manajek had moved on, and everybody that I know that like worked with him on a certification thing or whatever was like, man, he's great. Like he just gets stuff done. He really is.
He's just like, he gives a shit. Basically, when you're working with corporate America, it can be very easy to feel like a cog.
Yeah.
Like when I invoice Adobe from Magento U, oh my God, I'm in some system, some SAP Ariba thing. I was getting all these survey questions about my company's diversity program. And I kept answering not applicable. Why? Because it's just me, and I'm just filling this out, and it's telling me you have to fill this out. I'm like, oh my God. So you end up with this big faceless corporation that won't even give you free Photoshop, but that's rant. And he he knows your name, and he checks in on you and says, how you doing? I just talked to him the other day, and it's like, it's really like nice to have people like faces that kind of,
it's important, like like, I feel like, like some people are like, well, Adobe has all these resources, everything's going to be great. And sure, there is that argument to make, but I am, like we are kind of talking about earlier, I'm such a believer in kind of that individual. Like you've got to
Yeah.
have that individual to take particularly in a larger corporation, to
Yeah.
take ownership and really care about whatever thing it is. And so I'm kind of curious who's going to fill those. It's big shoes to fill. I mean, he has some big shoes to
There's
fill.
been already turnover there because I guess the woman that took over the certification is gone.
Oh,
They sent out an email telling
that's
everyone that their certs are going to expire, and then she's gone like a week later. I think
oh,
the
no.
community engineering Slack is why she quit. She was like, I just can't take these people
I can't
anymore. I
deal with
mean,
these
people
people.
were all over her in there.
Oh no, that's
It was kind
horrible.
of painful to watch. She'd be like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And after about a week, she's just like, "All right, I'm moving on from Adobe."
Oh God,
So
that's rough.
I don't know. Right now. I'm just kind of still dealing with the same people somewhat.
Hmm.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
Yeah. It definitely is a bit disappointing though, because he was really good at his job.
yeah, yeah.
Like the Magento U and the certification programs flourished under him.
Yeah, I really think so. I mean, I can't. It's hard to think of an example of somebody that like every single person that worked with him just said those types of
Yeah,
things about
right?
working with him, and yeah, and then lots of interesting certifications got out there, and
Yeah. I mean, when I was teaching in Boston, he came down from his place. He's based out of near Boston, and we had lunch.
that's cool.
That's
That's cool.
like it's kind of nice.
Yeah, yeah. And then I try. We joke about how you kvetch, and it's
Kvetch.
like I was getting ready to complain about the Adobe certification rebrand stuff, and it's like I'm
Oh, those
trying
are
not to.
awful.
I'm trying not to always be complaining about stuff, but at the same
Oh my
time, it's like,
God.
God, like you kind of just have to. You kind of just gotta
They took
get
away
it
the
out
sort
there.
of uniqueness.
You think?
Adobe is
You
the
think?
Adobification of Magento. I mean, it's definitely there's a little Borg mentality going on with
Yeah.
like I think that they're chopping up Magento for parts. I don't know. It's
Pretty much.
that's what a lot of companies do with
Yeah.
intellectual property. I think that's the eventual goal. I don't know, to just like consume it, subsume. What's the word?
Subsume.
Subsume Magento.
Subsume.
And the certification badges are just like.
And then the
I'm sorry,
spelling
6 months
is
does not
all.
make you an expert.
Yeah.
The associate certification is now the
It's
expert.
the expert.
And that's like,
Yeah, that's.
I don't know about that.
It's funny because I remember when the certifications changed to associate and professional, I
Yeah.
did not at all like those names. I was not a fan. I liked developer and developer plus and those types of things, but I grew to like them. And then like the professional certification was so hard. I knew so many people that like, so it was just a good certification. So I just started to like
I had to
that
give a
aspect
workshop
of
on
it.
that. And I stupidly, like a deer in the headlights, got cornered when I was in the Campbell office. Hey, do you want to give a certification workshop at Imagine in the spring? I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
I think it was like the end of the day and I was ready to go to happy hour or something. I'm like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so like the certifications weren't written yet.
Uh-huh.
And I never heard anything for like 2 months. So I didn't even like bother. And then I get this like call in February, like, all right, so you'll be giving an all day long workshop,
Oh God.
like a 7-hour workshop on
Oh
Magento
God.
2 certification. Of course, you had to be certified ahead of time. And I just basically was like, God, and I panicked and I told my clients, I'm like, I'm going to be, a little bit unavailable for about a month.
Yeah.
And I crammed basically. And I took it cold and failed it. And then I crammed for a month.
See, that's the thing, man. I heard from so many people that failed it. I mean, veteran developers that.
There's a benefit in failing it. I mean, I was lucky; they weren't charging me to take the exam because of the fact that I was going to be doing this workshop. Yeah. So I could have taken it as many times. Although, if you take it like 6 times, you really be giving a workshop. So luckily, I only failed it the once. But taking it just to get an idea of what to expect. Really, I know that's cost prohibitive for most people, but it helped me tremendously to be able to just to see what type of material was on it, what areas I was hopelessly bad at admin. And, that and checkout still, even checkout is something I farm out to other people.
Yeah. So. I think that, I feel like the SwiftOtter stuff is great too, because it allows people to
absolutely
quickly do a practice test and things
I've
like that.
I've heard those tests are even harder.
Really?
I've been hearing back and forth. They were free. I used one. I think they came out right before I was about to take the exam the second time.
Mm-hmm.
And they were still free. They were still working them out. And I remember I did better on the SwiftOtter than I did on the actual exam, but I've been hearing people saying the opposite. So that's kind of interesting. I think that's actually a good approach, because you don't want to come out of the SwiftOtter with like a 90 thinking I'm set and then get like a 65 on the other.
Yeah. If you got to pick one or the other, it'd be better to be a little harder. So back to the remote work stuff. I'm kind of a schedule nerd. I like
you always can be life. You're like, you don't have a Calendly?
When are you gonna get a Calendly?
What do I need to, like, for my cat? Seriously. It's like,
you have no idea.
I have one meeting a week.
You have no idea how many people I annoy with Calendly. But actually meetings was another thing. But like, so I like to learn about people's schedules, or even if people are like anti-schedule. To me, that's interesting too. Like whatever
I actually have a schedule,
okay.
And it's I've become more of a morning person with the pandemic.
Oh, really?
It's like, I think
so you were a
typical
because I was night owl developer type before the okay.
Yeah, and to be honest, like many, I started drinking more during the pandemic, and I would just fall asleep on the couch. Like at 9:30, and then I'm waking up at 6:30, like, all right, I guess I'll do this. So, I've been reducing the drinking, but the first 2 months, it was definitely like we were having Manhattans like 4 nights a week.
Yeah, it was a free for all. Nobody knew what was going on.
But now I do have a very
now you get up and drink
rigid,
in the morning.
But exactly.
Get it done.
I wake up around 6:30, and then I check the news, which not always the best way to start the day, but I like to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Take a shower, and then I meditate. I've been meditating every day.
Really?
And then I do my own thing. I read for a bit, or I'll start my work day around 10.
Okay.
So I get like 2-3 hours of morning time just to like totally chill.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice. I look forward to it.
That's cool.
I used to get up and work first thing. Like I'd get out of the shower, make my coffee, and sit in front of my desk and work. And then I'd be at my desk 12 hours later.
Yeah, totally.
Because I work at home.
Totally.
So now I finish by 6:30 and chill out for a bit.
Yeah.
And then watch a shit ton of TV at night. I've got so many channels, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's so much to choose from. Sometimes I want to take like a TV sabbatical. Tell my clients I'm taking like a month off because I really need to watch The Walking Dead.
Yeah. That's so funny. The working first thing in the morning thing, I've started to kind of tweak that a little bit. Like my first like couple hours, I will do like Twitter and stuff like that. No, like work stuff. And I realize I like doing Twitter. I like reading and seeing stuff and kind of thinking about stuff or whatever, and just having that time to like not have to go right into like work and kind of just stuff
what got me, I was visiting with my parents last year, and I noticed my mother got up every morning and just sat at the kitchen table and read a book.
Really?
And it was like, she'd just make a cup of coffee. My dad would still be sleeping or whatever, and I'd come down. She was always like, "That's kind of nice,
just
not
feels
to like."
Great, yeah.
I don't need to rush to work. I work at home.
Yeah.
So why am I like jumping out of the shower and throwing myself in front of my computer at like 8 o'clock if I don't need to?
It's interesting. Like, it's funny how like the pandemic in some ways has made us miserable in certain ways, right? But then also
Yeah.
like in some cases, like it's forced people to do certain things to adapt, which has kind of
Yeah.
made them better off, like in a way that's just kind of a
If you're lucky
healthier.
enough to not be literally affected by the pandemic,
Right.
by COVID, I
Yeah.
think in whether that's health or financial,
Right. Right.
because there is 100% a divide on that. But
Oh
if you
yeah.
are lucky enough, it's there are some benefits. Like I always joke that I have literally no more FOMO because like there's no one's doing anything. I'm not missing
No
out
one's
on
doing anything.
anything.
I know. I know.
Like usually like Europe is rocking with conferences right around this
Yeah.
time, and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
always so bummed out. I see,
Yeah.
I get on
Yeah.
Slack, I'm like, where's everybody at?
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
all at
Yeah.
a conference, usually in
Yeah.
Germany.
Yeah. Yeah. At
And
an
so like
unconference.
nobody's at a conference right now.
I
It's
know.
like if
I
there's
know.
or like if you want to hang out with a friend, what are you doing Saturday? Nothing.
Nothing.
It's like
Or what did you do this weekend? Nothing. Don't got to feel guilty
nothing.
about it or anything.
But we have a well, we have a pod, like many do, of people that are that are careful with. Basically, like
Gotcha.
we have indoor dinners with,
Right. Right.
and they have the same level of concern about the pandemic that we do.
Right.
So that's up by
Right.
Paul. But I've been sort of thinking about interviewing for a Brooklyn pod.
Oh,
But
okay.
all my friends over here are crazy. Like one just went to Mexico for a beach vacation. I'm like, all right, your application is denied.
You're out of the pod. Yeah.
The other one knows like 5,000 people. I'm
Yeah.
like, that it doesn't matter how careful you are.
You know
Like
too
your
many
numbers
people.
are just not
Your numbers
good.
are not
Not
good.
good.
We
So I
recently
don't
found
know.
out that our kid has some friends that apparently have a pod we didn't know about, and they've been hanging out. Yeah,
Oh, that's awkward.
we just found out about this recently. It was very, very disheartening.
That's the thing. It's like you find out that all your friends are in a pod, except for you. It's like high school all over again. Oh
Yeah, what the hell? Why aren't we in the
That's
pod?
horrifying.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it didn't even occur to me the friends that I'm already denying being in my pod might actually already be in a pod without me.
in a pod without you.
Crap.
Sorry.
All right, now my days are on. It's time to start drinking.
Yeah. Every time you think of a
Crap.
friend who might be in a pod, you drink. It's a new drinking game.
Didn't even think about that.
Well, this brings us to the meditation, right? Because the meditation should help with
Well,
all
you know
of
what?
these.
I've been doing that for pre-pandemic.
Okay.
For a number of years when I was living in the bad place.
Oh, gotcha. The bad place brought you to a place.
It was
of
a very,
meditation.
very noisy apartment.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very noisy apartment. So
Yeah.
meditation was a route to kind of find a way to deal with it.
Yeah. I've been I had a phase probably a year ago where I tried to start meditating, and it just made me absolutely miserable. And
Really?
I felt like it was making everything worse. All of my anxieties and things like that just got worse when I sat there with my thoughts.
I guess when you first start, it could be
actually
here's your state of mind.
Actually, what happened? I was doing these 5-minute.
That's
an interesting sound.
That's the neighbor construction.
Oh, okay. I thought so.
It's even better when I'm teaching.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Well, I do run some like noise reduction in post production, so we'll see how.
Could you run it in my apartment?
We could give it a shot. These, I don't know. Have you tried these AirPod Pros? They have noise cancellation.
You know what?
It's pretty
These
nuts.
don't fit my ears very well. I lose that so fast. It's ridiculous.
You're one of those that they don't fit. They've always fit me perfectly.
They've never fit me well.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, so I was doing the 5-minute ones. This was back a year ago, and it was working. It was hard, but it was working. And then the app upgraded me to the 10-minute ones, and 10 minutes. I couldn't.
Did it kill you?
It killed me. Which
app were you using?
I think I was using Calm or no. What's the other one?
Headspace. The British guy?
British guy.
Yeah, that's the one I use.
And then I basically took a year off, and then I recently started again a few months ago, and it's been great.
Same one, same app?
No. I just don't do any app. I just
crazy
listen to some music and.
No, it's I start my day with it. It kind of like
How many minutes do
I
you
find that I do 10.
do? Okay.
You know, he has all these different packs. I'm working on one called Patience. I bought a car in May to get back and forth to Westchester, upstate.
Got it.
And because otherwise, before I used to take like 3 subways and a commuter rail to get up there. So decided to stop.
When's the last time you had to own a car? It was a long time ago.
When I moved to New York 20 years ago.
Holy cow. That must have been a tough decision.
You know, what, moving to New York or buying a car?
No, buying a car, being like a hardcore New Yorker that like doesn't need a car.
You know,
like...
the main thing is the parking. It's like, you know, it's definitely, I've turned into one of those people that like looks out the window and was like, is that guy getting in? Should I move my car closer? Then I don't have to do the street cleaning tomorrow. And I've gotten all sorts of techniques for getting a spot.
Yeah.
That I'm not going to share here because otherwise they wouldn't be secrets.
Yeah. You can't leak those secrets.
It's bloodthirsty out there though, getting a spot. But it does. I find that the second I get behind the wheel, I have no patience for anybody. My blood pressure goes to the roof. My cat, I slap him back and forth because, you know, and he's in the back seat and he starts freaking out because I'm yelling at the guy in front of me that just cut me off, or the guy that won't let me out, or the guy that has too much of a gap between him and the guy in front of him. Right. And nice turn signal, buddy. And it's just like, oh. And put that on top of New York driving, where everybody's like that.
Yeah. It sounds horrendous. It sounds
so the
horrible.
patience meditation is sort of like an attempt to kind of reel that in a little bit.
Yeah.
So that it's not like Paul calls getting in and driving into the city every day. He's like, it's like going to war.
Right. Put on the face paint. 2.5
hours from up there, man. It's like you're
it's like
cutthroat. You're trying to merge, forget it.
So he did a 2.5 hour commute pre-COVID?
He technically works in Brooklyn. Okay. But has been working at home since COVID. But he also would work at home 2 days a week. Okay. Sometimes 3 anyway. But, you know, a couple of days of the week, he would drive in from northern Westchester, which is the county north of the state, and on morning rush hour. And I would go with him if I was there for the weekend. We'd just be sitting there, and it was just so brutal of like,
yeah.
Oh, man. So now when I go, I avoid rush hour.
Yeah. So we went to this like cabin on the lake here in Austin recently, and we drove out there on a Friday, and I was remembering that when we lived in LA in California, if you wanted to go somewhere on a Friday, you know, it was it was 4 hours to get to, like, if you want to go to somewhere in nature, you know, it was 4 hours. It was miserable, and this was just a quick 45-minute drive. It was like a piece of cake.
That's right. I forgot you lived in LA. That's right. Yeah, New York's the same way. Like, if you haven't left your house by like 1 on a Friday, don't even bother. You know, like especially like a holiday or something like that. You leave Thursday night.
Yeah.
You know, you just don't even bother because it is absolutely awful.
Yeah. So
I'm getting blood pressure just thinking about the FDR right now.
So the patience thing, is it working? The meditation, is it helping?
I just started. I'm only on day 9, so day 9. I'll get back to you in like a month.
We'll have to check back.
But it is something that like whenever I start to like get annoyed or pissed off, it's something to kind of pop into my head to remind me.
Right.
You know, that it's, you know, there's nothing I can do about it, basically.
I try to just do the like breathe, like take a moment and just take a few deep breaths. I try to do that throughout the day, whatever's happening, whatever comes up, just a couple nice deep breaths. And it's amazing how much that can help at times.
See, I find the things that set me off are traffic and technology.
And UI components.
There's nothing worse than like, you know, like I had to set up my printer the other day.
Yeah.
I thought about having a drink before I even started because it's like, I mean, printers are notoriously bad when it comes to just, you know, dealing with them.
Never let your printer know that you're in a rush.
Oh my God.
You know? Right.
But it's like when technology doesn't work, I just see red. I really do.
Yeah.
Not with code though. I never do that with code, but whenever like equipment.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because with code you can you can figure it out. Like,
yeah. Or just go to bed and then it seems to figure it itself out overnight.
Yeah. Yeah. So with meetings, you mentioned you only have one meeting a week. How do you is it just going back to having so many long-term clients and not a huge number of them that you're able
Yeah.
to
Is
not
I
have as many?
basically I meet with Yvonne once a week on Skype
Mhm.
and we discuss the projects that were, like
Oh, and
what's
he's
going on.
your developer.
Yeah.
So that's not a client meeting. It's
No.
like a
No,
team
so
meeting.
it's just me and him.
Right.
And he updates me on what he's working on. I update him on what I'm working on. And that's pretty much it. Or, we talk through some of the issues that we're facing that week for
Right.
whatever client. And that's it. It's a standing meeting every Wednesday for about an hour. And
Right.
like I'll have impromptu calls. I have one client that just does not get Skype. It's the funniest thing. Every time he tries to use Skype, there's no audio or there's some problem. Like we usually end up on Skype holding the phone with the mute because he's trying to screen share. It's like, I don't know what it is. He's like hapless when it comes to Skype.
It's horrible.
And other, my other clients, I do Skype meetings impromptu, but usually it's all asynchronous.
Gotcha. So on the impromptu ones, how frequent are those? I mean, just like roughly, like a couple a week, something like that.
No, God, no.
Oh, okay.
Maybe once a month.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, no, I'm relatively meeting free. It is one of the best things about my gig right there because I've never been good at meetings.
Yeah.
I just I have no patience.
Yeah.
For sitting in a meeting and having people like talk on and 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 on about things that have nothing to do with the meeting, or I've never found them productive.
Yeah.
I've never found them. Paul's on these calls with like 35 people with like the New York Fire Department, the NYPD, and he works in like emergency systems engineering.
Okay.
And there's so many people, and it's just so like
just a train wreck.
And they're like 3 hours long. 3 hours long, these meetings, and I just it's awful. And I don't know how he does it. He hates it too, but
Yeah, like I minimize meetings pretty heavily. And I feel like a lot of people are kind of stuck doing them. And if you said, hey, you should have less meetings, they would go, great idea, but how do I do that? Like clients want to have meetings. Like,
I don't know. I read an article years ago about two types of workers or whatever. You have people that create and those that talk, or
maker versus manager schedule.
Something like that. Yeah. And as a maker, it's really hard to convince a manager to leave you alone.
Yeah.
And a lot of times clients are managers.
Yeah.
I'm actually, now that I think about it, my clients are all makers outside of Magento U.
Interesting.
They're all makers. Like they're
on
busy
like e-commerce entrepreneurs.
Creating stuff. Yeah. It's like, so they don't have time for meetings either, basically. It's just like, so cool. I'm lucky that way. Yeah. Because they're small too. It's like, I think you have the bigger the company, the more meetings.
Yes. There's some kind of a law there. There's some kind of a law of
There's an
meetings.
Exponential.
Yeah. There's something there.
So as long as I stay small.
Yeah.
See, now that I'm working with a couple developers, now I have a meeting.
Now you've got meetings. Now the meetings are just the one for now. Just the one for now.
No, it's like
pretty soon.
Make this meeting twice a week.
Yeah, pretty soon it's going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays.
And then it's going to be a daily stand-up.
And then it's going to be a daily stand-up.
Yeah, that's the worst. We used to have these at this company. I worked at this company called Urban Daddy. And they had a new CTO every year.
Yeah.
And so one of them started with the daily stand-ups. And she made a stand too, which was kind of funny. So every day she'd go around, what all did you work on? Everybody would go, tickets. And so the meeting was like 40 seconds long. So then there was a rule. You're not allowed to say tickets. So then you would be like, ticket 423, ticket 320. Like nobody really had anything to say. It's just like your blockers are, this meeting is my blocker.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like like I think stand up. I mean, I like the idea behind stand ups that they give this sort of simple, sort of elegant structure to
Yeah.
meetings, but there has to be more than just that structure. There has to be, like, I don't know, somebody running it who can see whether there's valuable information being exchanged and kind of move it along.
And
If not,
daily is not necessarily necessary. Like
yeah,
this meeting would have been a lot more effective if it were once a week.
yeah,
You know, it's
yeah,
like, what are your blockers? It's like when I get a blocker, I talk to the guy next to me and he helps me unblock it or whatever. You know, like I don't need to have a meeting to say what my blockers are. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I feel like a daily stand up is sort of like a, you know, when you have code monkeys working for you who, you know, can't think
Right.
for themselves. So you have a daily stand up to help them do their job. But if you have competent developers, then you don't really need, like,
Yeah.
they don't need it.
Right.
You
Yeah.
need
It's
it
like
as a manager type.
yeah, it's like if they're not confident enough to, like, if there's something I need from you and I'm
Yeah.
not
Just ask.
confident enough to just be like, hey, there's something I need from you, then maybe
Yeah.
it's a good structure to help them have that space to do that. But if you
It
have
could be like if you have
more,
a mix of senior and junior, but I even then I still feel like a
right,
meeting is not the right format. I think
right,
meetings are very rarely the right format for things because they're just
right,
too fraught with, like,
right.
you know, meetings. Meetings suck. Everyone says that. Like, not many people like meetings. I've never met
Right.
anyone that, well, at least will admit to liking meetings. I think
I
there are
was
some
talking
people
to
that do.
Eric Heilman about meetings, and he's
Yeah.
real big on meetings. He's a big
Is
meeting
he?
guy.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I'm going to give him so
I
much
was
grief about that.
I was very surprised to find out about
He's a
this.
CEO, though. They're the
Yeah,
ultimate manager.
I know. But he's kind of
You
a
know, he is
non.
a CEO. Well, he's a
He's kind of a
techie CEO, but he's
yeah.
still a
He's a
CEO.
techie.
You can't do your job without meetings. He's not writing code every day. You know, it's like,
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
CEO, the only way you can do your job is having meetings with
Got to
people
set up
telling you
meetings.
what's going on,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. That's
So
what
that
you got to
makes
do.
sense.
So I thought you had mentioned that you have a client that's going to be on the Load in the Loop podcast, Eric and
Yeah, yeah,
Ivans.
yeah. I
Were
think it
they
just came
already
out.
on? Oh, you say they were already on it?
Yeah, I think it came out just the other day. I
Okay,
got a preview of it
I did
a week
notice,
ago, but
I did notice one that they launched just the other day.
yeah, that was
I
us.
That's cool. Okay, that's cool. I love the idea of the podcast of getting right
Yeah.
into real world issues publicly
Yep.
and going right into code level performance stuff like that. And I think
Yeah.
it's really cool for a merchant to be willing to just have their stuff out there publicly.
He wanted it. You know,
Did
it's
he?
funny because, well, we're on Mage Mojo, so
Right.
there was an email blast that went out to people on the server. I'm not sure who all got it, but whenever my client forwarded to me, and he's like, maybe we should do this. So I hit up Eric. I was like, by the way, Jim's really interested in this. So, you know, and I have a previous relationship with Eric going back a couple of years, being both in New York and everything.
Yeah.
So we were able to skedaddle to the front of the line,
Yeah.
but yeah, he was the one that pushed for it. My client did, which was
And
pretty
was
cool
that just
because he's
because
super performance. He's like, he wants that site to be like so fast, it's ridiculous. So when he found
so
out
he
there was
just
a
wanted
performance, yeah,
every last bit of juice he could get of
yeah,
performance
yeah,
analysis.
understandable, yeah,
That makes
yeah,
sense. Yeah.
yeah.
And so how'd it go? Did they
It went
find
well.
anything? Yeah.
Well, you know, they did find a few things. One of them is a third party. So
Okay. Shocker.
I know, right? And another one is the dreaded JavaScript bundling issue that
Okay.
plagues pretty much every Magento 2 store. So we're gonna
Gotcha.
implement that and some tweaks. But yeah, no, we got a good score overall.
That's
I
cool.
was very happy about that.
Was that
Yeah.
nerve-wracking was that some of your code they were looking at, or was it just
Yeah, buying Yvonne's, you know. So it definitely, yeah, you know, and also I wasn't sure how they were gonna look at it. Like, are they gonna like,
right?
I mean, he's the CEO of Mage Mojo. Are they gonna crack into my SSH into my box and start looking at it? let's put a breakpoint here, I'd be like, what? So I wasn't really sure about that, but
Yeah.
no, it's
That's cool.
a little nerve wracking, especially considering like we had just launched, and if they had found something really bad, my client wants to see this, so it would have really sucked to have just basically launch and then have some really bad mistakes in there like 2 weeks after launching. So I felt somewhat vindicated in our launch. Was we had hiccups, but it was pretty smooth.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. Good times. Well, Laura, this is a fun chat. Fun catching up.
Absolutely.
Where's the best place for people to find you online? Twitter or?
Probably Twitter. Yeah. I mean, I tend to get a little more active during political season, if you will. Although I do try to keep my political views
reined in a little bit.
A bit. I find like Twitter's kind of like oddly enough my safe space.
Is it?
Which it is because it's all tech.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, I kind of just keep it tech. I follow some political figures and I see who likes what. And people probably see what I like, but it's like I very rarely tweet.
I saw somebody
about
post
politics.
I saw somebody post the truth is in the likes. I saw somebody post that recently.
That's true.
I was like, sometimes you like something and you don't think that anybody's gonna see it, but they started surfacing more of those. So it's dangerous.
I've seen some so and so like this, and I'm like, oh.
Right. Shocked.
So but Twitter is definitely the best spot if you want to hear me bitching at airlines and cable companies.
Very cool.
But not as much airlines anymore, I guess.
Not as much. All right. Well, you stay safe out there in the big city, and we will talk to you. I don't know why I say we'll talk to you soon. It's like this verbal tick. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely.